Join us live
everyone.
on the Sherry Lord
Thank
Talk
you for
Show
joining
podcast.
us on the
Start your day
Spirituality and
off
Authors
with a higher
podcast with
vibrational
your host,
podcast
Sherry
with
Lord.
weekly guests.
We also want to
Covering
let you know if
spirituality,
you
healthy
want to
foods,
place
and
an
so
ad
much
with
more.
us.
Go to SherryLord.com for more info.
Era, today there's a lot going on with Mercury, so we're just going to wing it today. But as I said, if you're interested in doing that, go to www.sherrylord.com, and the ads are reasonable. These are paid ads. We'd love to market you. And we're so excited because we are welcoming Lili Fiore, and we love her. She's been on our show before, and she has a wealth of information, and she's really from the heart. I tell you, this lady has many years of experience with dementia and the wellness centers and her life. But I want you to say her topic today will be surviving the holiday conversations with family and friends with dementia. This is a really good topic because a lot of people out there have it, and people don't know how to deal with it. Welcome, Lili. We're so happy to have you back in our show.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be back and to see you. You look wonderful. I'm so excited to be here. So, there's lots of things that I will go through, but what I want to do is I want everybody to sit down with your family, your kids, your siblings, whoever, before the holiday parties where you're all going to be there. Talk about who's going to be there, who's on the upper end of the scale, and who might have some cognitive issues show up. I want everyone to figure out a silly, funny joke that you can pull up and use it to diffuse a situation if things are getting tense. What happens is that people do not realize that Aunt Gladys or Uncle George have cognitive issues, and you will say something or do something that sets them off, but your brain is not realizing that they have issues. And so you just like, what is up with them? And you get upset and you feel hurt, and it's not you, it's not them, it's cognitive issues. So it is incredibly important that the moment you notice anywhere in the party, anywhere in the conversation, that there's awkwardness between someone who is thinking that this person is who they used to be versus who they are now, and is getting caught up because it doesn't make sense to them why they're acting this way, or why they're responding this way to something that they've never responded that way before. Figure out, make a joke, change the subject, do whatever you can. Get the person who's acting strangely or differently in a different room, do whatever, ask their help to, hey, can you help me bring stuff in for the table? Just any excuse to change the atmosphere and change the mindset, because it's so important to realize that people that have cognitive issues, they know something's not right, and they don't feel like themselves. Some of them have the ability to self-reflect that and know that. Others do not. They're just scared. They're terrified, especially if there's family history of dementia or something like that, right? They don't want that to be them. And instead of rolling with it and making jokes about, well, you can tell me whatever you want, I may not remember it in 10 minutes. They get defensive because they're not able to handle this. So it's so important. Talk to your kids, talk to everybody who's going to be, able-bodied and can help mitigate what's going on in the whole family gathering thing. Tell your kids, no phones. Nobody goes on the phone. The only phones aren't allowed at family gatherings, except for when you're taking photographs. Then you can use them. Let's learn how to check in with each other again. Let's learn how to pay attention to Uncle George because Aunt Gladys died 2 months ago, and this is his first family gathering since she died, right? These are the things that are so important for all of us to just keep in mind during the holidays. Holidays are hard. I mean, I don't know about you, Sherry, but I will always think of Thanksgiving at my dad's mom's house. That was the big Thanksgiving. Have I had 40 plus, probably 45 elsewhere? Yes, but I still remember the childhood Thanksgiving, and it's, nothing remotely the same.
Yeah.
And so that can be really hard because people get caught up in their memories and who's not here. And so we need to remember that mental health is so important. And even if somebody is pretending, they may look like they're smiling, but they're acting. So understand that a lot of people, especially this time of year, they're very good at smiling and saying the right things, and laughing at the right jokes and all that, but inside they're not okay. So please pay special attention to people and watch them. What's their body language? Are they standing in the corner with their arms and their shoulders hunched? Are they closed up, or are they relaxed? Are they acting nervous and looking around, or are they comfortable in their skin? Look at the cues, the nonverbal cues. Okay. So important, so important. And always be listening for somebody to be taking something the wrong way, and go in and intervene and fix it. Because I had a friend over Thanksgiving, and she was at a party and saw a friend and did a magic trick, and it got taken the wrong way. And unfortunately, she got very hurt, but then she was okay. She realized after I spoke to her that it's not that the person was mad at her, it's that they were having a cognitive issue and things weren't making sense. So that's really important to understand, that this happens. And I don't know where we lost Sherry, but I'm sure she'll be back in a minute. The other thing to think about is caregivers. Caregivers are exhausted this time of year. Please think of what you can do, how you can help your caregivers in the family. Can you gift them a clean house? A housekeeper coming in and cleaning everything? Can you gift them the lawn being mowed? Can you gift them a night where you're there and taking care of the loved one, and they can go out and have a lovely dinner and go to the movies or a show or something? These are the things that is so important for you to think about. This is the season of giving, and yes, we're all tired. We all have our own issues, but the idea, a dear friend of mine from high school had a saying, and Chris used to say, everybody's got stuff. The trick is to put it on your back and carry it. You don't want other people tripping over your stuff. So as you're going through the holidays, make sure that if you're realizing that you're not carrying your stuff, your load, that you pick it up and put it back on your shoulders and get the help you need and the support you need to be able to function and do what you need to do. It's really important. You don't want other people tripping over your stuff. There's so much I can tell you to do. I want you to think about self-care. Self-care is incredibly important for all caregivers and for everybody. If you're having a bad time, take a walk. Go around and walk around the neighborhood, walk around the house. Get a break in whatever it is that is getting you down. There she is. There she is.
Lili, you're still there?
Of course I am. I've been talking all along. So I've been talking about self-care.
Oh, I'm so glad I got there's been some technical issues on on this system for some reason, so I apologize. But keep going, because I think this is such an important topic during the holidays. Thank you for keep talking. Thank
Oh
you
my
for that
gosh,
so much.
of course, of course. So self-care is so important. Another thing that I want to make you guys realize is, all right, so I know this is kind of hard to see. I put it in front of my red shirt. So this is a cord, okay? I want you to think
Yeah.
about it. This is a timeline. This is how our brains
Okay.
usually work. So the beginning here is when you're born, then you know, have elementary school, high school, college, marriage, children, old age, right? And so these things for us, if you don't have cognitive issues, look like this, right? Nice and straight.
Mm-hmm.
And by the same token, logic, right? Logic. 2 + 2 = 4. 4 + 4 = 8. And down the line. Now, when someone has cognitive issues, whether or not they've been diagnosed, the whole thing turns into a big schnoodle, and everything is touching, right? So what their timeline will be mixed up, their logic will be mixed up, and you will never, and I mean never, be able to convince them otherwise. So
Right.
when you're having these topics and you're walking along and all of a sudden you realize you've fallen into a hole with them because something is not making sense to our reality versus their
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever try to reorient them. Be with them wherever they are, because
Yeah.
they will not remember the words you say, but they will remember how you made them feel. And it is
Yeah.
so important for us to make each other feel secure and loved and grounded. They already don't feel grounded. So anything you do to increase that is just really bad for them. It's really bad for them. So my dad there's lots of different kinds of dementia, hundreds. My dad had vascular dementia, and he was himself and oriented 90% of the time. But every once in a while, all of a sudden, something would fly out of nowhere, and you just had to be on your feet. So there was one time when we had our dad in the full care side of the nursing home and our mom on the assisted living side of the nursing home. And I made the comment to my father, and he was an Episcopal priest, that I was going to go visit mom in her room. To which he looked at me with a total panic and he said, "Lily, women aren't allowed to live in the seminary." So, so I immediately just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't mean the room. I meant the hotel down the road." So be quick on your feet. I, I mean, come on, people. He was in seminary before he met my mom. I was born 4 years after they were married, but somehow I was there at the seminary with him, and mom existed, but they weren't married. So you can't. There's no logic to these things. When
Okay.
my aunt Esther fell, she was 81 and broke her wrist at the nursing home, and she was brought to the ER that night. Later than I would have liked, but what are you gonna do? I was in a different state. So
Yeah.
and I called a woman who was my right hand, and I said, "I know it's 9:30 at night, but Esther just got brought into Evanston Hospital. Can you please go meet her? I'm sure she's terrified because she had full-on Parkinson's dementia." And I hated her going to the hospital in the ambulance by herself. And when Wendy got there, Esther looked at her and said, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you. My parents haven't come yet." So what did Wendy do? She said, "Oh, honey, they're on vacation. They heard that you fell, and they called me to come and be with you until they could get here."
Wow.
So she instantly created a story. She did not tell 81-year-old Esther that her parents had been dead for years. Right. Because that would be cruel. Whenever you're dealing with someone who has cognitive issues, I want you to think about, before you say anything, is what I'm going to say going to increase the quality of their life and
Yeah.
their mental health? And if the answer is no, then shut your mouth.
Yeah.
It's just so important to roll with it.
Yeah.
If they ask for something, I had a client who had an aunt that always wanted to go on walks because that's what she did when she was healthy before she was bedridden. And so, but she kept agitating. I want to go on a walk. I want to go on a walk. And it was getting very difficult to manage her because she kept asking and everybody was like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. So I said, let's change things around. Go get her coat, get her shoes, get her.
Oh, that was smart.
Yeah, let's put her on the side of the bed, swing her feet down, put her shoes on, put her coat on, don't zip it so that you don't want her to get overheated. And then talk about what you're going to see during the walk. And then talk about, the nature sounds, the birds you see, what the smell of the woods was, whatever kinds of sensory things you can think of. And then as they get lost in that, then change the subject, wait a few more minutes and then when when you can see from watching their eyes that cognitively they're in a different place, then you exclaim, oh my gosh, that was a wonderful walk. You must be so exhausted. Let's get you back into bed. And what was your favorite part? And then, make a fuss, say, oh, you must be so thirsty. Let me go get you some water, after that long walk. And ask them what their favorite part was because their brain will still remember other walks and be able to tell you about a deer or a bird or, something. It can fill in those blanks. And then you're bringing that back to them and bringing them that joy. You're not saying you can't go outside and walk. You can't even stand. You're not saying those things. You're allowing them to have this lovely experience of what it was like and to recreate that for them in their head so that they can feel calm and loved and surrounded by things that mean things to them,
That is really a very wonderful wealth of information and tips for people to realize that and being creative with it too. And to really realize they can't help it. You know what I'm saying? And people have a hard time because they end up arguing with them until they find out you can't argue with them.
You can't. You
Yeah.
absolutely not. And I think I told this story the last time I was on, but with my aunt, I brought her to Vermont eventually after her broken arm because I just decided she needed to be where we could keep an eye on her and my mom could visit her sister. And my mother called me from her nursing, her room in the rehab center where she was getting occupational therapy and things for her broken wrist. And my mother was in a panic. She said, Esther says she has to get ready and go to work today. What do I tell her? I said, you tell her she's on vacation. And then my mom's back on the phone, all, like, uh-oh, now what? She said, Esther says she's got to go get her paycheck. It's payday. I said, tell her we already, it was automatically deposited. And then she says, Esther said she's got to make sure it's the right amount. I said, tell her I already checked the receipt and everything's fine. Go have a margarita,
Yeah.
They have problems. And you need to solve the problems and you will never be able to understand the problem. So another time, the only time I did not follow with my dad and do what I should have done, but tried to reorient him. He thought he had been blind for 30 years and he was bedridden because he couldn't move. And he was in his room and he thought he was out in the rain for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And he thought he was wearing he was at work and he was out in the rain and he just knew he needed to get in from the rain. So he said, Lily, I need you to get me in from the rain. I'm ruining my work shoes. And I made the mistake, although I'm glad I did it in hindsight because now I can tell everybody else about, don't do this. I said, Daddy, can't you feel that there's, a bed underneath your arm? There's flatness. And if you look above, that's a light in the ceiling. It's not round, and oh boy, did I hear it. Lily, Christina, Udell, Fiore, if I tell you I need to get in from the rain and my shoes are getting ruined, I expect my daughter to get me in. So I was like, of course, Dad, I'm so sorry. I'll clean your shoes. I'll polish them up. They'll be perfect for tomorrow morning. And and boy, I never did that again. Another time,
Yeah.
another thing you can do with your loved ones, if you've got a good relationship with them, is tell the nursing staff or tell the nursing home staff, um, that or the hospital staff, that if they're having an issue and they're agitated, to call you if you've got that kind of a relationship. I did that. I
Mhm.
had that with my dad. And so there was one night when they called me up, and it was 11 o'clock at night. And they were like, he's really stressed out, but he won't tell us. Why he wouldn't tell them, I have no idea. But I got on the phone with them, and he's like, Lily, I'm really concerned. I was like, well, what's wrong, Papa Bear? And he said, well, there's a big nor'easter coming, and we're going to get 3 feet of snow tonight. And I have a really important meeting at 8:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Right. Did I tell him it was June? No. Did I tell him there was no nor'easter in the forecast in Vermont? No. I solved the problem. I said, Daddy, look, I don't work tomorrow. I'll drive out right now. I'll bring my snow pants and a snow shovel. You use the snow blower. The two of us will get it. And once we have the most of it out of the way, then I'll get up every hour to make sure that you can and clear behind your car down the whole driveway so that you can get out on time tomorrow morning. Oh, Lily, you do that? Yeah, of course, Daddy, I would do that. I mean, that's part of living in Vermont is you get up during the night and you shovel snow so that you can go to work in the morning. And so I solved the problem, and he was able to go right to sleep. So it doesn't have to make sense to us, but it's we have to be wherever they are to be
Right. And
able.
that's what I hear you say, because you're helping them play out what's in their mind that's very real to them. And I
Yes.
think this is really important for people to get.
Yes.
And your message is so important right now. There's so many people that are struggling with people with dementia, and they don't know how to deal with it, or
Right.
how to relate to them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just they are understand that at the core of who they are still the person that you love.
Right.
But I want you to understand that they are no longer the adults that you grew up with.
Yeah.
They are no longer that person. Their brain is missing parts, and it can't function that way. And
Yeah.
so the sooner that you are able to divorce the parent you grew up with or the aunt you grew up with the person that's sitting in front of you,
Right.
and separate the two and understand they're different people. They're completely
Yeah.
different people. Their core is the same, but they're different people.
Yeah.
It becomes much easier because you're letting go of your expectations. If
Right.
your parent was a finance person or an attorney or something and they were brilliant, it's very, very hard to make that picture fit with something where a person only talks about getting coffee ice cream and doesn't talk about anything else. That's really hard
Yeah.
to resolve that. But that's who they are now. That's not who they
Yeah.
were. And just be there and smile at them. They need the reassurance. They need the love. They need to know that no matter what, everything is okay.
Right.
That is just like a small child, right? There's so many parenting things on Instagram that I find so interesting. And I find that the majority of them also apply to dealing with our older population and people with cognitive issues. The same thing. They just want to be loved. They want to feel secure. They feel scared because things don't seem quite right, and they don't know how to explain that, let alone
Mm-hmm.
tell you about that. So it's just so important to just try to think of your loved one as a kid who scraped their knee, and wash it off and tell them it's okay,
Wow.
and all these things. It's so important.
Yeah, I like how you said it was acceptance of where they are, not who they were, that they're not the same. And
Oh,
it takes whoever's caring for them time, especially if it's a family member, to adjust to that. And I think this is such an important topic. It really is, to help people with ease of how to look at it, how to deal with it differently. And you've had experiences. So
I
it
have.
is a wealth of information and tips for the people who are watching and our audience.
Oh, I'm so glad. Just think about, how would you like to be treated, right?
Mhm.
Would you like to be yelled at and have somebody tell you that, wait, when you think 2 + 2 is 5, that 2 + 2 isn't 5? No, of course not. So let 2 + 2 equal 5 and go on with your day, and just let it be. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, the only thing that matters is how you make your loved one feel. And we want them to feel secure. We want them to feel loved. Remember, underlying, many of them know
Right.
on some level that things are not okay. And
Right.
so they already have this, is the floor flat? Is it they're already
Mhm.
feeling out of balance. And so if you are not able to help restore balance for them, then it's going to get worse. Now, with dementia, the other thing everybody has to realize is that dementia can also be from a urinary tract infection, right?
Okay.
If your loved one has a personality change and all of a sudden starts getting angry, get 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 their whoever is responsible for their healthcare, have them have a UTI check to see. Men get UTIs too. It is not as common, but it does happen. Older women get them constantly. We always used to know if mom had one, because she would get really bitchy. You know, our lovely mother would change, her personality would change, and it wasn't that she had dementia, it was that she had a urinary tract infection. And
Mm.
for whatever reason, older people, when they have a bladder infection or urinary tract infection, it affects their brain. A doctor can tell you
Wow.
why. I don't know why. I just know that that's one of the parallels. Depression can also show up looking like dementia when it's not
Okay.
actually depression. So if your loved one is not acting normally, what they really need to do is they need to go have whoever's responsible for them should get them booked for um, neuropsychology testing, neuropsych testing. And this is like a 4 hour or more battery of tests where you have to look at pictures and problem solve. You have to try to memorize things. It's like being in school again, but they're really
Right.
fun. But until you have that, the 10 question, who's the president, what year is it, that does not tell you if someone has dementia or not. It can tell you if they're out of it, but it cannot tell you. There are plenty of people that have dementia that can pass those tests. For example, my Aunt Esther, she was brilliant. And when she had Parkinson's and Parkinson's dementia, she could charm anybody. She could tell anybody, and they would never know. But when they asked her, when she did the neuropsych testing, and they said, Esther, draw a clock, the
Mm.
circle was here, the hands were here, and ones and zeros were down here. She could not draw a clock face anymore. Her brain no longer worked that well.
Wow.
But you would never know it because she presented as you and I do.
Yeah.
But things underneath in the layers were not
Wow.
working correctly. So I understand that you really need to have this neuropsych testing. It's very hard to get in the calendars. Most cities and states don't have enough neuropsychologists, and that is what you need to definitively figure things out. 15 minutes with a neurologist is not enough to determine whether or not your loved one has dementia.
Okay.
So if somebody you bring them to the neurologist and they say, oh, they're fine, no, go see a different one
Okay.
and get
Get a
neuropsych.
second opinion. Mhm.
Get a second opinion, because I have had clients who, and remember, some neurologists are phenomenal and we adore them, but some are not so phenomenal, and have told clients of mine that ended up being diagnosed with dementia that they were fine, and they were not. So it's important to get the tests, really important, or to find out if they have a urinary tract infection, or to find out if they're depressed, and to
Right.
really figure out the root cause of what's
Define
going
it. Yeah.
on. Yeah. Yep. Because guess what? If it is dementia, there are medicines they can give you that will slow it down. And
Right.
so to me, it's much better. And granted, this is me. I've always been jump in and deal with it kind of person. But I'd much rather know I have dementia, take the medicine and push it off as far as possible so that I can be me as long as I can. So, that's so
Wow,
important.
that is a wealth of information. And Lily, we just appreciate this. It's so needed. It really is. And you're also an author.
I
On my end, you have your book in front of you.
Yep. Oh, let me grab it. It's back
Yeah,
here.
grab your book. Can you bring it up for our audience to see it?
Yes. Lily's
Yes. Tell people about your book and how they can get a hold of your book.
Yeah, I'd love to. It's on Amazon.com, Walmart.com, BarnesandNoble.com. And then at the end of the book, it's a workbook, but it's got lots and lots of articles about how to figure out things. But at the end of the book, there's a QR code. So you can scan the QR code and download all the different worksheets to your computer so that you don't have to rip up your book, break your book, and write in your book, because there's everything you ever needed to know in here. I have tracking sheets for medical issues, different pharmacy information, care team information, how to write an obituary, and the last chapter is all about grief and the different kinds of grief, and it just has a wealth of information. Everybody has my permission to take the QR code and send it around the world. I care about people being able to be organized caregivers,
Yeah, and the name of the book again, and do you have a website too that they can go to?
I do. Lily's Caregiver's Guide, and my website is MuchLoveLily.com. And Lily spelled Lili.
Yes, we also have her on our website at www.sherrylord.com. You can click on the link to get there as well and see upcoming guests that we have. Lily, you've been wonderful. We so love having you, and we'll have you back again. Thank you so much for being on our show. And blessings to all. And this wealth of information was so needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.